Hi, students. It's Michelle with a quick word on chapter 6. And we're going to talk in this chapter about the control function. And it's really that final piece of the process of planning and organizing, staffing, leading, and then coming into controlling, taking a look at how have we done, how are we doing, what needs to be adjusted the next time that we go through the process. And so really important to follow up, circle back with the control function. And even though they use the word control, you don't want to confuse that with the type of controlling behavior that some people might exhibit. So it's just a separate term for the function of a manager slash supervisor. All right, let's get going. We're going to talk about goals versus objectives, the types of planning that different levels of management does. We're going to talk about scheduling, the control function itself. What are standards? What are variances? And then I talked to you already in the announcements about performance reports. So just a little kudos and thank you for all the people who are in manufacturing in this country, if that includes any of you. The U.S. manufacturing field industry business contributed 2.9 trillion to our economy in 2023. So nice work. If you want to know the top 20 manufacturing companies in the United States, you can go to industryselect.com. I just did a screenshot of the top few. So you can see that the top manufacturing company in the United States is Boeing. I think this was a 2023 list, so pretty current. Then you have Huntington Ingalls, Tesla, Intel, Lockheed Martin, Boeing company. So two different companies, right? Intel, again, looking at different facilities. So yeah, I think you'll find that really interesting. All right, so goals versus objectives. Goals actually, I know the book uses it interchangeably, but actually out in the field, goals are longer term. They are broader in a sense when they're compared to objectives. They don't necessarily need to be broad aims that you have. They should be specific and measurable, but goals as they're related to objectives are longer term, broader. Your objectives are your short term aims, what you want to accomplish. They flow from the goals. So let me give you an example. If you're an internet provider, that's your company, and you're looking at planning for the fourth quarter of the year, and your company uses the calendar year for the fiscal year, then your fourth quarter would be October, November, and December, right? So there's 4 quarters in any year, 3 months in each quarter. If you're on a calendar year, fiscal year, that means you run from January to December. If your company uses a different fiscal year, starting, say some people start in September, then you would just figure out your quarters based off of your year start. But for us, we're just going to say that we're planning for the fourth quarter. It's September. Our goal given to us, say by top management, middle management, is that they want us to increase sales in the Northwest region by 0.9%. So that's the goal. The objective is how we're gonna reach and meet that goal. So we're gonna have smaller objectives in terms of the sales department, in terms of the marketing and promotions department. So we may say, okay, we're going to increase the number of sales phone calls from this to this. We're going to run a promotion that's going to include this. We're going to run it from this time period. Maybe we're going to do some direct mail marketing. What does that look like? So you're creating objectives to meet your goal. when you think about planning by management level, you have three types of planning. So top managers, your CEO, your CFO, other people in that top level of management do what is called strategic planning. So they're really looking 3 to 5 years out. While they are involved in the business in terms of, making shifts in the next year or so that need to happen, they're really trying to look out ahead of the company. What is changing? What are potential, technology changes, desires, different desires based on our customers? What's happening in the landscape of what we do? Tactical planning is mid-level managers. And yes, organizations are becoming flatter, meaning there's less levels of management, but you'll still find tactical planning for your mid-level managers. And they're thinking of that year. Okay, so here's the goal. What does that look like for the next year? And when you hand that down to the supervisors and the front level managers, those people are going to break that year plan down by month, or really depending, it's probably different in each company. This is just, generally speaking, supervisors are concerned with the shorter term. So what needs to be done this month, what needs to be done this week, and what needs to be done today. And I know for a lot of you, it's what needs to be done in the next hour. All right. So as you think about your objectives and you think about all the different moving parts that go into what you need to accomplish, what a lot of people use is scheduling software. So who's doing what, when is it expected to be done by, or when does it need to be done by? And so you have kind of a complex layer of scheduling. I would be curious to know what scheduling software your company uses. But really you're breaking down your tasks and creating a timetable for them. And you're also dividing them up on who's responsible and accountable for these different tasks. So you can use a Gantt chart, you can use a PERT chart. There's some software online, monday.com, ClickUp. And then you can also, if your company is big enough, you can have software that's made custom. It's really expensive and there can be a lot of errors in it, but that's also an option for kind of that project management perspective. So just reviewing the 5 functions of management, looking at, okay, we're planning, then we're organizing, where we're allocating different resources, we're figuring out our needs. And then a big need is staffing. Do we have the people that we need in the right areas, in the right states, with the right skills, doing what we need to do to accomplish our goals? Leading is really, after you've explained everything, you're stepping back and letting people work. You're kind of being a coach in this function. And then, like I said, we're going to talk about controlling. How are we doing? What needs to be adjusted? And how can we be proactive in preventing any possible problems? So really the question is, how are we doing? And there are 3 types of control based on where you're at in the process. So pre-control is a perspective on controlling where you want to prevent problems. Setting up rules and procedures, codes of conduct, guidelines. You're communicating the expectations, your standards, what you expect, what success looks like. You're doing the maintenance on machines. If you have an online business, making sure that you have the proper cybersecurity in place to prevent any problems. Concurrent control is checking in the present. So while you're working, you're walking around, you're checking your status reports, you're aware of how things are going in the moment in case of anything needing to be adjusted. And then feedback control, taking a look at something in the past. How did we do? What did we say we were going to do? And what did we actually do? And that is where variances and standards really come into play. We said we were going to do this, but in actuality, this is what happened. What are the differences between what we said we were going to do and what we actually did? So standards are what you set out before something is done. So depending on if you are in the goods business, right, you have tangible items that you're selling, or you're in the service business in which your service isn't tangible, you might say service industries are restaurants. You're looking at the customer service side of things. You are in education, you're a teacher, that's a service. You give car repairs, haircuts, nail salon, things where you can't actually hold what you're providing to the customer. You have to have standards either way. So if you think about an actual product, like a tangible product, what is the size we're looking for, the shape, the weight, the number of pages, if it's a book, what is the cost that we're trying to stay under? If it's a service business, looking at the level of customer satisfaction, we want to set out to, have nothing less than excellent reviews. And an excellent review looks like this in these certain categories. That your outcomes are met. So as a teacher, we have outcomes for each class, and we need to say at the end of what we've done as we've wrapped up our semester that each student can say this, they know this, they understand this, they can do this. And so we have outcomes that we look at for our service industry. So you want to define the quality of what you're looking for, the quantity of what you're looking for, what is your acceptable error rate, and what is your acceptable waste rate level. And so as you've set out these standards in which you've clearly communicated them to your employees, everybody understands. The more they understand what you're asking, the better they will do. So clearly stated, they're available if they're available on paper or they're posted on posters in walls. Everybody knows what we're trying to achieve. So variances then are any difference in the standard. So if at the end of the day you have a positive or negative variance, meaning it was better than you expected, or a negative variance, it turned out worse than you expected, that's a variance. And variances, either way, positive or negative, need to be investigated if they're significant. So if you set out, for example, to say that our waste standard is no more than 0.03% of what we produce in a given day, and at the end of the day, you are calculating the waste and you find that it's 0.031. Well, is that significant enough to have a discussion and to investigate, hey, what happened here? No, not really. But if it's 0.05, then yes, why did this happen? And even if it's a positive variance, how come you didn't know it was going to be better than expected? What information didn't you have when you set out the standard? Because then you may need to adjust the standard. And also, as a leader, so my doctorate is in leadership, when something isn't according to standards and you're the leader and you have a negative variance, then you need to take responsibility for that. Is it something I didn't communicate? Was it something I didn't provide my employees? Why didn't they perform to the expected level? And then once you've evaluated what you should have done or should have known, and you take responsibility, then you can go back to your employees and say, all right, here's what we expected. Here's what didn't go well. Here's what I need from you tomorrow. When you have positive variances, be sure that you are not quick to take the congratulations for that, right? So you want to make sure that you are letting your employees know, wow, I thought we were going to do this. We did better. Way to go. And that you're not taking credit for those positive variances and then blaming your employees when there's a negative variance. Try to really flip that around. Okay, and then just a last note on controls, and when you set things up for, preventative, concurrent, and feedback control systems, make sure that they're timely, that you're getting the information that is important for you to know in a timely manner, so you can address things before it becomes too much of a problem. You want to make sure they're cost effective. You don't want to have controls that are incredibly expensive, cutting into your profit. You want to have acceptable controls. So don't, create busy work just for the sake of controls. Make sure that they're actually a good use of everybody's time to do the controls and review the controls. And then lastly, make sure that they are flexible, because things, obviously you have to adapt all the time in business, and you don't want to have rigid controls that aren't going to move along with the flow of your business and the flow of the economy. Because if you have controls that are rigid, your people are just going to figure out how to go around them. They're not going to actually utilize them because they're unreasonable. So make sure that they're flexible as well. All right, let me know if you have any questions. Be sure to share anything that you think would be beneficial for me to know about your business and how this actually looks in your company, or any future job that you're thinking about, questions that you have. All right, thank you.